This is Mageia 6 Stabilization Snapshot 2 with the Xfce 412 desktop. It's a development release, not for production, but signals that the final release may not be far off. Mageia is a Greek word meaning enchantment. Mageia is one of the survivors of Mandriva, a commercial Linux distribution which began as Mandrake, founded by Gaël Duval in France in 1998. It was a fork of Red Hat, but eventually diverged from Red Hat, although it retained the RPM Red Hat package management system. It was first on DistroWatch's page hit rankings from 2002 to 2004, but due to a lawsuit changed its name from Mandrake to Mandrake Linux, one word, and then in a merger with Conectiva of Brazil to Mandriva. It began having financial difficulties in 2006 and last appeared in 2011. In 2010, it was forced to reorganize and laid off much of its staff. Many of them joined with community members to begin development of Mageia as a free version of the commercial Mandriva. Mageia was first issued in 2011 and was second on DistroWatch's page hit rankings for several months in 2012. While the initial interest has diminished, it retains a loyal base of supporters. Mageia.org is the Paris-based nonprofit that supports it. I had no trouble installing it on an external drive. The installer actually guessed correctly that I wanted the Grub2 bootloader on my external drive also. This is the familiar Xfce. It comes in various different configurations depending on which distribution you use. In this case, it's configured much the way I like it, with two panels, one at the top and one at the bottom. At the left here is the whisker menu. Notice that it shows the categories at the left by default, which I much prefer rather than at the right, as has been the case up to now in many distributions. I'll go into the menu selections later. It comes with some application launchers already installed, and this is the terminal emulator, this is the mouse pad, this is the file manager, this is the web browser, which is Firefox, and this is the Mageia Control Center, which I'll go into. I added the Pulse Audio Volume Control and Simple Screen Recorder. May I say that I installed Simple Screen Recorder easily from the Mageia repositories. This is the volume control. This is the update manager. This is the network manager, and this is the little icon that Simple Screen Recorder leaves when it's open. This is for restarting, and this is for shutting down. At the bottom, we have a show desktop icons. Then you have a workspace switcher, which defaults to 4 workspaces, a window list or a task list or task manager, which shows the open applications. At the far right, this is another method of switching between workspaces. There's a little redundancy here, but you can easily clean that up. This is the Mageia welcome screen displayed when you first install Mageia. It will continue to be displayed unless you uncheck this box, which I have done for show this window at startup. But you can still get the window from the menu. It includes release notes, errata, and instructions for newcomers, documentation, a link to forums, a link to the wiki, a link to the chat room, a link to Bugzilla, a link to the community center. Here's how you can contribute your efforts, and here's how you can contribute your money. And you can, of course, join the Mageia community. Now, when you first started, I would suggest going to Configure Media Sources and Update System. Now, you notice there are 3 types of sources listed. The core is the free open source packages. Then there is a non-free source or closed source. It explains that this repository includes NVIDIA and ATI graphics card, proprietary drivers, firmware for various Wi-Fi cards, etc. And this is the tainted sources. It includes packages released under a free license, however they may infringe on patents and copyright laws in some countries. In other words, multimedia codecs needed to play various audio-video files, packages needed to play commercial video, DVD, etc. And you'll notice here that it says non-free and tainted are not enabled by default. You can click on this to edit software sources. You can also get to this from the menu, but I'm going to show you what happens here. I enter my password. And then authenticate. Here's a list of sources. It originally just has the core releases checked, but I clicked on the non-free release, the non-free updates, and farther down here I clicked on the tainted release and tainted updates, included by default the Core 32-bit release and Core 32-bit updates, which I normally don't need, but there may be some applications which come only as 32-bit applications, and you might need that to install them. So that's the most important part of the welcome screen in my view. Now, so here's a look at what's included. I'm going to go down to development here. You have the database browser and the LibreOffice base, which is the LibreOffice database application. Under documentation, you have the Mageia user manual. Under education, you have LibreOffice Math. Under graphics, you have GIMP included by default. I installed LibreCAD, a program I frequently use, and it was readily available in the repositories. They also include Ristretto, the image viewer, and Xfce, the scanning utility by default. Under Internet, they include Claws Mail and Deluge, which is the BitTorrent client I prefer. They also include Mageia Softphone, Firefox, Xchat, and then they have a link to their network center. Under Office, they include the Trial Document Viewer for viewing PDF files, the LibreOffice Suite, and the Orage Calendar. Under Sciences, they include LibreCAD again and LibreOffice Math again. And under Settings, there's quite a large number. You'll have to scroll down to see them all, but remember that the whisker menu can also be extended, which will eliminate the need for scrolling down. And here they have accessibility, appearance, database access, desktop, display, file manager, keyboard, type editor, mouse and touchpad, notifications, Orage preferences, panel, customize the panel, password and keys, power manager, preferred applications, removable drives and media, session and startup, settings editor, settings manager, window manager tweaks, workspaces, and X screensaver. Now there are other ways to get to these things. And below that they have sound and video, Xfce, the GNOME player. I added MuseScore 2, another application I frequently use, and it was readily available from the repositories. They include the Parole media player, Pulse audio volume control. I added Simple Screen Recorder, again from their repositories. They include the sound converter, sound juicer, TV time television viewer. I added the VLC media player, again from the repositories with no difficulty. And they include Xfce Burn, which is a standard Xfce disk burning utility. And finally, they have tools, and they have quite a variety of tools. And here you really do have to scroll down, even with the menu fully extended. They have the application finder, bulk rename, change background manager, the Claws Mail tweaker and Grandpa archive manager, Epson inkjet printer manager, calculator, Gparted, the HP device manager, HP SendFax, iBus preferences, Lexmark head-align, Lexmark head clean, Lexmark hide cartridges, Lexmark printer manager, Lexmark show cartridges, LightDM GTK greeter, the Mageia Control Center, Mageia Welcome, the Clock Manager, the Login Configuration Manager, CUPS Web Interface, the Printer Manager, the Host Manager. I have to scroll down here. ManaTools Log Viewer, another implementation of the same thing. Let's see. One is the administrator mode and one is in the viewer mode. The ManaTools Proxy Manager, ManaTools Service Manager, ManaTools User Manager, Manawal's Firewall Configurator, Mousepad, Many Tools panel, application launcher, network monitoring applet, the network center, the Open JDK 8 policy tool, Orage Global Time, phone manager, print settings, pulse audio preferences, language and country configuration, RPM Dragora, which is one of their tools for installing and removing software, and RPM Dragora Mageia update for updating software, Screenshot, Task Manager, Thunar Files Manager, Xarchiver, Xf Burn again, the Xfce terminal, and Xterm, debug information for package Xterm. So there's a lot here, given the fact that there are a certain number of redundancies in the menu. Now this is one case where I might recommend a slight change in design. I think it would benefit from having a few more categories on the left and less lumped into the tools section, because some of these things like mouse pad and the calculator are just accessories, and some of them are rather sophisticated technical settings, and they should probably be separated into different categories. Now there are also shortcuts here. By clicking on this, you can go to settings, and these are the Xfce settings. And if you click on this icon here, you can go to the Mageia Control Center. This is a modernized version of the traditional Mandriva Control Center, which was one of the things that distinguished Mandriva in the first place. Under Software Management, you can install or remove software or update your system, configure updates frequency, and configure media sources, so you can handle all those items, some of which we've already covered here. Now let me just say that the install and remove software would be fairly easy to use for anybody familiar with the Synaptic Package Manager in Ubuntu or Debian, or the Yumx Package Manager in Fedora, or YAS2 and OpenSUSE. Anybody can use those file managers. Will have no trouble with this one. You can view the applications by category if you wish. Databases, here's editors, here's terminal emulators. Well, here's education. Now, it doesn't appear that there are any games. However, if you click on this right arrow here, you get these submenus, and you get a whole series of games. Adventure, arcade, boards, cards, other. I won't go down the list. So under Office, again, you have to go to the submenus. And for spreadsheets, you have Calligra, you have LibreOffice Calc, etc., etc. The word processors, you have Abby Word, Calligra Word, you have LibreOffice Writer, I won't go through all of these categories. What I usually do is use the search bar. And as I said, I installed VLC. So I'm just going to look that up again to show what I have. That's just a quick look at install and remove software. Under hardware, there are a number of things you can do here. Generally speaking, you will not have to configure your hardware, but if you want to do so, here it is. Then you can configure your sound. And in here, I enabled pulse audio, so from there on, I used pulse audio to set the sound settings. You can configure graphics, set up the graphical server, configure the mouse and keyboard, set up the pointer device, mouse and touchpad, configure printing and scanning, set up a scanner, set up printers, set up scanners, set up a UPS for power monitoring. All right. Under network, you have the network center, set up a new network interface, remove a connection. I'm not going to change any of that now. Just to look at the network center. It shows that I have a wired connection active and I have a wireless connection which is not active. It does list my wireless network, but I'm not going to enable that right now. You can also set up different network profiles, configure a virtual private network. Under System, you can manage authentication, manage system services. I would not mess with that if I were you, unless you know what you're doing. You can add and remove fonts. You can import Windows trademark TrueType fonts. I don't use them. The fonts that are available are more than adequate for me. You can manage localization, the date and time, and other localization factors. For instance, if you want to get to weather, you'll need to localize that. Administration tools, you can view and search system logs. You can open a console as the administrator. You could manage users, import Windows trademark documents and settings. And you can make snapshots of your system, but I don't want to do that because I'm not set up for that. Under network sharing, you can configure Windows copyright shares, drives, and directories with Windows SMB systems. You can configure NFS shares, network file servers. You can configure WebDAV shares. You can manage disk partitions. You can burn a CD or DVD, share your hard disk partitions. Just looking at managing disk partitions here. This is not gparted. Gparted is available, But this is the version of the disk partitioner that's included with the installer, and I don't want to use that right now. Under security, you can configure system security permissions and audit, set up your personal firewall, configure authentication for Mageia tools. This is advanced setup for network interfaces and firewall, and you can use parental controls if you need them. Now, under boot, you can adjust the existing boot configuration. However, I noticed when I clicked on this, set up a boot system, I got this error. This program has exited abnormally. I'm going to click on OK. Remember, this is still a development version. It's not the final release. So there are going to be some things that just don't work. Now, to add launchers to the top panel, all you have to do is find the items in the menu. Let's say I want to add GIMP. So I go to GIMP and I right-click, and it says Add to Panel. It asks me which panel, and I'm going to use the top panel, panel number 1. And the icon appears over here at the far right, as it usually does with Xfce. I right-click on the icon, left-click on Move, and I move it over here where I want it. And it now gives me a launcher for GIMP. I always use the single window mode. And there's GIMP. Now there are many ways you can theme Xfce. I'm going to the Xfce Settings Manager. I'm not going to go into all this. It's quite extensive, as you know, if you've ever used Xfce before. Let me unmaximize this. Under Appearance, you have a lot of different styles. The only thing that's different with Mageia here is that the individual styles of which you have a choice are different from the individual styles that may come with other implementations of Xfce. Some of them are the same and some of them are different. Now they start with traditional OK. That's an easy way to get back to what you started with. I'm going to try No Coda Midnight, just to show you what that looks like. It looks pretty interesting. Everything on the panels is easily legible. Now, under Window Manager, under Advanced here, Window Snapping to screen borders is checked. I'm going to also check to other windows. And where it says Wrap Workspaces when reaching the screen edge, I'm going to uncheck that. So now I'm going to close. I'm going to open up something. Let's try the terminal. And let's try the little text editor here, mousepad. So see how window snapping works. It works on the edge. Doesn't seem to work on other windows. It does work on the edge. You can use the upper left quadrant, the lower left quadrant, or the total left half, and the same, of course, over here, the upper right quadrant, the lower right quadrant, or the entire right half. If I drag it to the top, I get a full screen. If I drag it back over to the left, I get that. If I drag it to the middle somewhere, it just defaults to its previous unmaximized condition. For other panel settings, you can right-click on the panel, add new items, panel preferences. This is panel 1, it's horizontal, it's locked, it's never hidden. Now it's 36 pixels. That's fine, but I usually keep them smaller. So I'm going to move that down to 30 pixels. This one came in at 32, so I'm not going to reduce that very much. So that's Mageia with the Xfce desktop. This is XRAM Tech. Thanks for watching.